Now, former ANC Member of Parliament Mduduzi Manana has been removed from a gender-based violence panel discussion. The organizers of the fundraising dinner say that the move was motivated by public disapproval over Manana's inclusion. South Africans had expressed their outrage on this on social media. They slated the organizers, accusing them of insensitivity. Manana was convicted of beating up 3 women at a nightclub last year. He was sentenced to a 1-year jail term or a fine of 100,000 rands. Now, joining us in studio for our discussion is Obobo Patrick Shai, who's known as a South African actor as well as a founder of an organization called Kuluma Ndoda. Also on the line, we have Mpiwa Mangwiro Nzanga, who's a regional campaign specialist with the Sonke Gender Justice. A very warm welcome to you both. When we saw this on social media, there was quite backlash. And the question that's being raised, I guess from my side, is why this would be an issue. Is a panel discussion on gender-based violence. He's been convicted of that charge. So my thinking was he would have something to contribute, but many South Africans are saying that no, he shouldn't have been on that panel, hence he was removed. Let's start with you, Babushai. Why do you think people felt the need to remove him? And do you feel that he should have been removed from the panel?
Kuluma Ndoda, it's all for engagement. I believe in conversations going forward to find resolves to whatever challenges that society is facing. I also want to advance the fact that gender-based violence, it's not a gender-sensitive issue. It is a societal issue. It affects, yes, individuals, but it affects families, it affects communities, it affects the whole country. So it is important for us to begin to conversate on these issues of gender-based violence. So I don't understand the call that was made that he should not be on that panel, but after talking to Mdu, he assured me that he's pulling out of that panel discussion, that the decision to have him as part of the panel was taken without his consent. And hence they issued that statement. I think perhaps it was opportunistic on the part of the organizers. But when he spoke to me, he said, no, Babushai, bengekho lapho, but mangale nambi ngifaka kule nto, because my advice would have been to him, Joe, don't be part of that, not now, while we're still going through the processes, rehabilitation and all that.
All right, Babushai, let's park this. I'm going to come back to what you've just said of you having a dialogue with him. Let me bring you in, Mpiwa. Do you feel that Mr. Manana should have been removed from that panel?
Yes, I certainly feel that he should not have been there in the first place. Before we even talk about his removal, we should talk about why he was even considered to be there in the first place. I think I looked at the theme of that event. It said legends taking a stand against GBV. So for me, the first question that arises is it now being assumed that because Manana has committed acts of gender-based violence, he has become a legend of taking a stand against them? What does it mean to take someone who has been convicted of abusing women and then putting that same person on a public stand, which is supposed to be about legends who are against the very conduct he has done? What standard are we using to say he has become a legend? Particularly when we are looking at the pervasive nature of gender-based violence in this country. For me, I think it actually waters down the weight of this offense. It almost, what it centers is actually it was very aggressor-oriented. It was not the victims of the abuse oriented, because were these victims of this abuse even consulted? Do they give the permission that they are comfortable with this person who has abused them suddenly coming out as an ambassador against what he did towards them? More so, we take this in the light of the fact that Manana was convicted last year. This year, another incident. Barely 3 months ago, there was another incident which, although the National Prosecuting Authority did not prosecute, but there definitely was another incident of the same behavior of abuse. Then we take that kind of a person who has not demonstrated any form of remorse that we are aware of and say this is now part of restorative justice. I think it actually flies in the face of the tenets of restorative justice.
Now, picking up from what Mpi was saying, I'd like to actually talk about his showing of remorse. Let me start with you, Babushai. You said that you've spoken to him, and I know that your conversations might have been private, so you can share with us whatever you feel you can. But how does he feel about what is currently being said about him in the country following these incidents? The first one he was convicted of and he paid the fine, and the second one, the NPA felt that it couldn't prosecute because there was lack of evidence. I mean, he must understand the type of talk that is around him right now. I mean, how does he feel about that?
Well, I would not go into the legalities as to, the decisions that drove to the NPA deciding to charge or not to charge. I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know why. But also, he's feeling very remorseful. He is crying out for help. And he would want to do whatever is possible to make peace with what he's done. He would like to have a platform where he can say he is very sorry for what he's done and somehow commit himself to some kind of a program that would show that he truly is remorseful. And I think, I hear the concern is around the word legend. I don't know whether that addresses the concerns of the public, because it could have been, if we change the word legend and make it confessions by Tutuzi Manana, would it have been allowed to go on? So I've got a bit of a cold. Okay. So if we are going to be very semantic about Amakama, suddenly is a legend, is not, maybe also coming to that name, maybe the organizers decided to use that name.
Yeah. Can I get Mpiwa to respond to that? Mpiwa also picked up on this, that you seem to be more concerned about the fact that it was legends. And Dr. Shai is bringing that up as well. Is that your point of concern, the use of the word legend?
No, I don't want to reduce this to being about the word legend. Like I said, for me, if we are going to say that he wants to take responsibility, why does that responsibility have to be about being seen in a public platform? What has he been doing in his private space to deal with that? Because I hear Ubabushai saying he wants to find a program. Why hasn't he looked for that program? Why does it have to be a public podium speaking about the pain that was inflicted, that he has inflicted on women, that he has to suddenly demonstrate his remorseful nature? That's one. And two, I am concerned about how his victims are supposed to feel when someone that has abused them, someone who has not demonstrated, because for me, Manana is a public figure who could not have failed to find a platform to apologize for what he did. But if the events of 3 months ago are anything to go by, then there is no remorse that is demonstrated actually. So for me to then want to say restorative justice is about the people who have been abused too. Have the people, the victims that he inflicted pain on, been considered in this, or are they now being used for Manana to come out and say whatever? But what about them? Because if this cannot be about Manana. It cannot be about him as a person. It should be about fixing the harm that he has done. And for me, how does coming out on a panel like that fix the harm that he has done for the people that he abused, for the society, and also taking into cognizance that even his leaving office was not something that he was willing to do. Pressure had to be put on him for him to leave. So for me, there are a lot of issues around this whole issue of him being remorseful, him being transformed, and feeling like this is really capitalizing on pain that is inflicted on women, and like the nature of patriarchy always being about the men. patriarchy is always self-centered. So for me, this is a very self-serving approach of patriarchy coming out to say, oh, look how remorseful I've been. I've come out to the Revolution, whatever event. But what have you been doing in your private space? What are the steps that you took that have been showing that you are remorseful? What about the abusers whom you abused? Were they considered? What is it going to do to them to see someone who harmed them, who inflicted so much pain, coming out in a public space, being celebrated like a legend? I think those are the issues that really needed to be interrogated. So it's not a matter of semantics, not at all.
All right, Mpiwa, let me pose this question to you now. You've spoken about the steps that he needs to take. I mean, the steps that he should be taking to show how remorseful he is. I mean, working for the Sonke Gender Justice, what steps do you think that would be the acceptable steps to take to show his remorse?
Sorry, you're saying I missed the last bit of the question?
What steps would be the acceptable way to go in order for him to show his remorse? And being part of this panel to discuss the issue of gender-based violence is not. You're saying that he hasn't taken the proper steps to show that he is remorseful. What steps would you suggest?
Yes, okay. Like you're saying, at Sonke Gender Justice, we actually believe in preventative measures. We don't believe just in dealing with the abuse. When the abuse has happened, it has happened, but we also believe in preventative measures. But I think some of the crucial steps that Manana should be taking himself are, for instance, engaging in a program, because last year we were informed that part of the judgment was that he would go for anger management courses. I don't know if he did that or how that came out, but for me, I think he actually needs to go through a program or a process that helps him deal with gender transformation, with social transformation, to understand that when you look at a woman, you don't look at them as a weaker species, or you don't look at them as something that is less equal than a man, because his conduct actually is embedded in deeply entrenched gender norms about what a woman is and what a man is and how they need to relate. So I think this is one of the processes that he needs to go through himself, not just to be funding for other people to go through that training, but he himself also needs to undergo that process so that he can better understand how to relate or how to deal with masculinity in a much more positive way and be able to relate with women in a much more positive way. And I think this is now post the fact, but also if he was really sincere, his resignation should not have come at a point where he was now under pressure. He should have been able to walk away even before he was put under pressure, to realize that what I have done, I've done wrong to community, I've done wrong to society. I need to recuse myself from playing a leadership role and first deal with the issues that I have to deal with and work on transforming myself. Then I can be able to give back to my community, whether by being part of programs and supporting programs that also address gender-based violence, that deal with social norm transformation. He can be involved in such kind of activities. But he first needs to go through the process himself.
All right. Thank you so much, Mpiwa. Now, also joining us as part of this conversation is Maungo Dolo, who's an activist with hashtag Total Shutdown. Now, you remember hashtag Total Shutdown marched to the union buildings and handed over a memorandum demanding certain actions to be taken in order to bring down the scourge of gender-based violence. We'll be coming to you just now, Maungo. I just want to touch on something that Mpiwa said about him taking the necessary steps outside of the public eye. And now you also mentioned that you'd been having conversations with Mduduzi Manana and your Khuluma Ndoda. What my question is, who approached who?
You must also understand that we've got a client, as to who came to who. Obviously, it is Mduduzi Manana who came to me in the very first instance when he had his when he was charged in the first case and seeking assistance. And it is quite expected, and I don't want to normalize what Mduduzi Manana did or what any other man does in terms of the violation of the rights of women or harming them in whatever way. But it was unfortunate that in the second case, there was a relapse. So the conversations were ongoing. It's unfortunate that I cannot reveal the content thereof, with him. He would call, I would call, because he's a client now, ya Khuluma Ndoda. And I am quite happy with where he is now, because Khuluma Ndoda, it's about rehabilitating the offender. I'm not about having dialogue with Majita and men who are right. I am saying if I don't give him a chance for rehabilitation, I'm chasing him away to abuse another person. So we cannot keep the abusers out. We have to draw them in and work with them from inside so that they can become advocates against gender-based violence. You'll understand that I come from that background. Yes. as a reformed domestic violence perpetrator. I'm now running this program called Khuluma Ndoda. If I had been shut down, if my apology was not accepted, and for me it was personal. I was not even a product of social psychologist interventions. I wanted to change, but change does not come the same way to all of us. I did not call anybody to say, hey, I need help with this and that. I saw it myself that what I was doing was wrong. I wanted to change because I realized that I needed to give my children a better chance to a father, my wife a better chance to a partner, and give myself a complete chance to being this wonderful man that God had created me to be. So I believe in second chances, and I believe in as many chances as we can. If a person can make a call to me, I deal primarily with people who are saying, Brapet, I'm about to commit a serious crime. Can I come to you? I say, come to me. So I don't want to chase them. If anyone wants to chase them away, let them give them my address, then I'll deal with them, but they must be ready to accept them once we have processed them.
All right, Maungo, let me bring you in. Like I mentioned earlier, hashtag total shutdown, march to the union buildings, because you'd felt that this had been going on long enough. And I remember what was being said over and over again was enough is enough. Now, I'll bring in what Mpiwa said, I hope you caught a little bit of it, was that Manana was allowed to stay in his position even after he had been convicted of this. I mean, when you went to hand over that memorandum, you were quite aware of this. So, which brings me then to my question, how much faith should we have in government that it will play an effective role in curbing this change? When it is the very same government that kept him in that position, long after he was convicted.
When it comes to the Duduzi Manana issue and government, I feel like we're at that point where we can't live on hope when it comes to government. And we need to be in the forefront of making decisions as to how government should deal with Duduzi Manana. I think that the sentiment has already been agreed that Duduzi Manana didn't resign voluntarily. He was pressured socially. And by virtue of that happening means to say that he still did not recognize that he is in the wrong. He was pressured. And without the pressure, I don't feel that government would have been decisive in removing him.
Yeah, and also what another question that has been brought when you speak of him having to resign under pressure is the fact that he resigned just a day before he was expected to appear in an ethics committee in Parliament. You want to respond to this one, Dr. Shahi? Please do.
I think the way we work in the sector, gender-based violence, and that is applied in politics and in every sphere. You have what we call pressure groups. And the significance of pressure groups is to put people under significant pressure that they do what is not expected, what they do not want to do. So I don't think it was willing. It was out of his own volition that he resigned. If there had not been pressure groups such as the pressure groups that are there, would not have arrived at the position where he decided, hey, Jack, I have to
move.
Yeah, I had to move. And with the discussions that we continuously have, I said, Joe, it's the right thing to do. It's the right. When I saw that advert, I then called him to say, there is no way you're going to be on this thing. Absolutely no way. Because it's too fresh. You can't. And he said, Papa, I was put on the thing without my consent. I volunteered to assist them with logistics, but not that I was going to be part of. He was just going to be part of the audience. But yes, pressure groups are necessary.
Absolutely.
But once we pressurize somebody to do so, and if he has done that, we can't punish them forever.
Absolutely.
And we can't punish them forever. For instance, to to bar Arthur from doing this. We are saying Arthur must continue to violate women in private. No. My point being that if we allow them to be on that podium and we've got the right questions for them, we can put them on the hot seat and they will answer those questions.
You know,
but if we say, no, we are not engaging with them, then it's a problem, because we're saying, with Arthur, for instance, and the likes of Manana, if I were to engage them in public, on a public podium, this is what I would ask them, one question. I would say, Arthur, we are talking about this recent case. In your industry, how many women have you violated? Taking in cognizance that by the time it gets to the public podium, many of them have happened. We are only dealing with the one case that has come out now. So we need to say, now we have a wonderful opportunity to engage this person and get to know how does he operate in his sphere, in his field.
Absolutely. But
so that we have data of how many women have been violated. Encourage those that have been violated to also come out and say, he did. But if he wants to confess, we put him there to force him to make a confession.
However, I think that we need to sit down and really dissect the structure of rehabilitation. Firstly, we've got these gender-based violence perpetrators who have not shown remorse publicly. They first need to start apologizing nationally and then show remorse and make amends. It's atonement, then amendment. We can't just expect someone to by spontaneous combustion, then we assume that they rehabilitated because they want to stand on a public platform and then be engaged. They've not shown any remorse, therefore there is no remorse. They were pressured until they get to that point where they've shown remorse, where they've atoned, where they've made amends to the public societally. We cannot say that they reformed or they rehabilitated. And Datasha, I think that it comes from your position as well, where you are now an activist. You didn't just stand up one day after what you've done and say, I'm going to address this on a public podium. You made amends to society, you made amends to women, and that is what should happen. We cannot have Manana standing on a public podium as a fresh perpetrator who's not shown remorse and then want to advocate for the rights of women. We need to go through that process, and I think it's very important for us. Otherwise, it feels like we're glamorizing gender-based violence, and then it's now time for them to get into the spotlight.
Yeah, I agree
All
with
right.
you.
Let me just bring in Datashai. Let me just hold on. Biwa also wants to add on to this conversation. Biwa, go ahead.
I want to say, Jatisha, you know about the cycle of gender-based of abuse, right? That sometimes today someone beats you, tomorrow they buy you flowers, they say, I'm sorry, and then the cycle starts all over again. For me, putting Manana on that platform feels like that we are being put on a cycle of violence as women where he beats, then tomorrow he comes with flowers. This person has not demonstrated deep down that they are genuinely, as has been said by the previous speaker, that they are genuinely remorseful about their actions. They have been pressured to take the decisions that they've taken. And now here is a public event. Why is it so crucial for this person to come out in the public to speak about his actions if he has not on his own volition? Because for me, it's how much of him is truly sorry about that. Are we not being subjected to the same cycle of abuse where someone beats you, then buys you flowers, and yet they're going to beat you again tomorrow? For me, like what has been said, this feels like glamorizing gender-based violence to say, oh, okay, if you really want to show how sorry you are, find a public event where you are going to where you are going to be exhibited, and you come out and you say you are sorry, and yet this is not an exhibit. This is about dealing with a scourge that has seen people die in this country. So we can't help people who have not demonstrated that they are really remorseful about their actions being exhibited on public forums as if it's now a celebrity status, as if it's something to celebrate that this man actually beat some women. Or let's give him a platform to come out with it. Is that the point? Because for me, when I read that thing and says, let us take a stand against gender-based violence, I had a different idea about it. But if we package it this way, then it seems like it's just a glamour platform for people who have committed crimes against women to come out and get a new celebrity status of being housed. Yet we have no fruit We have nothing to show for how they've really been remorseful, how they've been. Yes, it is important to rehabilitate abusers, but let us not try to glamorize what they have done. Let them be truly rehabilitated. Let them walk the journey that you have walked, that journey that you're explaining. Let him walk the journey until he is truly sorry and truly rehabilitated. Not for us, because otherwise this is actually making fun of gender-based violence. It actually sounds like this is making fun of it.
Right.
While we also believe in rehabilitation at Sonke, while we believe in crime prevention and all those things, while we believe in addressing gender-based violence, it cannot be glamorized.
Thank you so much, Mbiwa. Thank you so much, Mbiwa. Unfortunately, because of time, we'll just have very quickly, Ndata Shai, for you to just very respond to that.
Two things very quickly. One, we are also, in this case, it's unfortunate that this whole gender violence issue, abuse of women, it's now becoming about Mduduzi Manana attaining celebrity status. We seem now to be absorbed in that and forgetting the bigger picture, that it's ongoing. But I want to say there is also a woman who was organizing that event. It would be interesting to get her view as to why did she want to do it that way, if that's what she wanted to do. And thirdly, we are not responding to the fact that Manana corrected that whole by saying, I'm not part of that.
Yeah.
So it's not been vocalized or focused at.
Right.
But fourthly, we are working on a national program where men are going to come out and say, we are sorry, from a Kulumandota perspective. And I hope they will not be questioned as to what is it that they have done. Because it will be a national movement of men coming out to say, to all the women, we are sorry. And for the things that we've done, we are therefore committing ourselves going forward that this and that would.
Unfortunately, guys, we have to wrap it up there. We're running out of time. My producer is going through the roof. Thank you so much. That was Mbiwa Mangwiwo Tsanga, who's a regional campaign specialist at Sonke Gender Justice, Maungo Dolo, Total Shutdown activist, and Babu Shai, founder of Kuluma Dota. Thank you so much for your contribution on this panel. We'll have more news for you after this short break. Stay with us.